Welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast, the world's leading authority on childcare marketing, mindset, expansion, and profitability. Our host, Brian Duprey, is the world's most sought-after childcare coach, having helped tens of thousands of childcare owners from around the globe take their business to the next level. Let's welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast, our host, Brian Duprey.
Hello, and thank you for joining the Childcare Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Duprey, with another episode of the Friday Training Series. Every Friday I come on, I do a short podcast with a different tip, tool, tactic, something to help you grow your childcare business and put more money in your pocket, which is always a good thing. If you haven't ordered my book yet, Childcare Multi-Millionaire, it is on Amazon. You can pay for it there, or you can go to my website, childcaregenius.com, and get it free. I'll even pay for the shipping to put this in your hands. It's for childcare owners, and it'll change your life. All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about why you should raise your childcare rates annually. All right, I know you hear people, a lot of you talk about it, but you'll be surprised at how many owners that I coach and have talked to that have not raised their rates in several years. It just floors me, like they feel guilty doing so. So I'm going to give you some reasons today, 10 compelling reasons I'm going to give you of why you want to change, raise your rates each and every year, even modestly, depending on your market and costs. So a couple things. The first one is inflation is going to erode your real revenue every year. So what inflation does is, the government, U.S. government prints a lot of money, and they spend about $2 trillion a year more than they actually bring in, which if we would do this as business owners, we'd be bankrupt pretty quick, right? Well, when you print money, it devalues all the other money. So your dollar today is only worth 98 cents next year, and maybe 94 cents the following year. So you lose buying power. So that same tuition you're charging today is not the same tuition you're getting next year, even though the dollar amount's the same. It buys less. It buys less fuel. It buys less electricity. It buys less supplies, food, all that stuff. So you want to be able to raise your rates just to be able to keep up with inflation. Probably your teachers want to raise every year for the same exact reason. So everything is going to go up. Your insurance, utilities, rent, licensing fees, professional development, everything goes up 3 to 7% a year. So that's how you need to raise your rates, just to be able to keep up with inflation. All right, the next one is if you do it every year, you don't have to do catch-up raises later on. So if you haven't raised your rates in 3 years and you're 20% below market, can you imagine giving your parents a 20% a jump in tuition in 1 year? I've had clients that had to do that just to get people up to market because they were losing money and well below market. And I have clients that charge below market because they think their market is at the bottom when they can, they have a great product, they could charge more. So you want to be able to do it to avoid a big jump. It improves staff pay and retention. If you're raising tuition every year, you can afford to give your teachers a inflation bump each and every year as well, which improves retention for sure. Rising regulatory and compliance costs, state licensing requirements, background checks, training hours, health and safety upgrades, mandates, minimum ratios, they get expensive over time. So your annual rate adjustment on your tuition will help you meet those without sacrificing standards. I think it's very important. It also supports ongoing quality improvements and curriculum enhancements. The more you invest back in your business, the more it's going to pay back off to you long term. So you want to make sure you have the money to, upgrade toys or technology, get some software, put cameras in, maybe get some, replace some of your bad play equipment, and make sure you have a good curriculum. All those things are important, but they take money, and it takes more and more money every single year. Next thing is keep your center competitive. Parents rarely want to go to the cheapest childcare center. They tend to the middle of the road. 80 to 90% of parents will take the middle 80% of tuition. They won't go with the lowest. They won't go with the highest. But that meet in the middle, you want to make sure you're in that high middle area for sure. You don't want to fall behind competitors, and now they can afford to hire the better staff and pay more because they're charging more, and then it's a catch 22, and then you're always at the bottom. It's going to improve your cash flow and build stronger financial reserves. High per child revenue means predictable income. You definitely want to try to get as much as you can from your parents, and it's going to definitely give the value that you deserve. So, you think you're a great childcare center. Make sure people pay for that quality that you give. You know, are you the Saks Fifth Avenue, or are you the Walmart of childcare, or are you the penny saver? We call it Martin's up in Maine, but it's the bottom of the barrel low. Which one are you? 90% of people in America go to Walmart childcare. That's the really good program. Give you what you need, but it's not that super, super high quality, that star, high star. And there's only about 10% of centers that are at that very top, and parents pay 20%, 30% premium for that. And there's that 10% at the bottom as well. That they're going to get that bottom of the barrel. You want to be in that middle 70% or so. That's where most childcare centers are. I consider it the Walmart of childcare. There's nothing wrong with that, but you need to be able to raise your rates to stay into that. It makes it easier to attract and convert new families when tuition rises gradually and predictably. Parents will expect it every single year, just like groceries, rent, daycare, competitors. Everybody frames it positively that high quality care deserves a reasonable, fair tuition. And you got to write it right in your parent handbook that tuition will be adjusted annually based on inflation, cost of living, et cetera. Because a couple years ago, inflation was rising 10, 12% a year. And if you didn't raise your childcare tuition that fast, you were really losing ground. So hopefully during 2021, 22, 23, when it was really rising fast, it's really good now. Inflation's almost zero now. So we've got that under control. But people who didn't raise their rates during that time are way behind the curve. Raising your rates tuition traditionally will help you create long-term sustainability and owner freedom. If you get healthier margins, 15 to 20%, and you have money to invest back in the business, and you're living below your means, like I talked about last week's podcast, you're going to be in great financial shape, which will allow you to invest back in your business, buy some real estate, and help build that generational wealth. Make sure you announce 60 to 90 days in advance with a clear letter explaining the why you're raising costs. I would put in there all the things that you spend money on, from workers' comp insurance to unemployment insurance to liability insurance, student accident insurance, electricity, water, sewer, oil, like everything. And let them know that all of your costs have been rising, which makes it so we have to pass those costs on to you. Plus, your teachers are going to get a bump as well. And that way they feel like, okay, this is why they're looking for this, 7% increase. You could also raise rates only on new families. That's an option as well, but I wouldn't do that. I would make sure you hit everybody. You could also raise it a little more on newer families coming in because they don't know the difference. If you're behind the market, you can do that as well. So make sure you said that about 60 days before, and don't send it via email. Print a letter, send it home with each child. That's the best way to do it. And it's in the family's hands. It doesn't get lost in on a Brightwheel app or an email. Emails are so impersonal. Do not a handwritten letter, but a letter signed by the owner and letting them know that this will happen, what day it happens. I hope that helps. It isn't greedy to raise rates annually. We have a lot of heart-centered owners in our industry. And you feel guilty asking for another $10 a week from a family that is struggling. It's very important that your teachers get the compensation they deserve. You have the money to weather the storms. Remember, a poker analogy, when you started your business, you put all your chips in the middle. You risked your house, your kids' education, your finances, everything you have was in the middle. it's okay to make a profit and pay yourself back for that risk that you took. It's okay. No need to feel guilty. All right. You need to take care of your family as well. And you're providing quality care. If the parents don't like it, they can stay home with their own child. That's just the way I'm going to feel because you're providing a great service and you deserve to be properly compensated for the amount of risk and the amount of quality care that you provide. Never going to apologize for that. And I never want you to apologize for making a profit. Profit is not bad in childcare. All right. Well, I hope this helps. Again, if you've not ordered my book, Childcare Multimillionaire, love you to go get it today. ChildcareGenius.com and /books. And it's free. I'll even pay for shipping, get it in your hands about 10 days. I'll even autograph it for you and get that in your hands because I know how important it is. I donated 2,500 books for free. So we've got a few left. And I'm getting those in the hands of childcare owners around the world to make a difference. And that's my give back to the community. All right, we will see you next Friday for another episode of the Childcare Genius Training Series. Have a great weekend, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Childcare Genius Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please do us a favor and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a future episode. Don't forget to visit our website at childcaregenius.com to see a list of services we offer to help grow your childcare business. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the Childcare Genius community.